One day it will hit them, not in the middle of the noise, not while they are busy, not while attention is easy and distractions are everywhere. It will hit them in the quiet, in the late hours. In that strange moment when the room is still, the screen goes dark, and there is nothing left to hide behind. That is when your absence will stop feeling like a small detail and start feeling like a loss. And hear me clearly, because this matters. Some people do not understand your value when they have you. They understand it when they no longer have access to you. They understand it when your voice is gone, when your patience is gone, when the comfort they took for granted is no longer waiting at the door. And yes, they may come back, but if they do, it will not feel the same. Because by then, you will not be standing in the same place with the same empty hope and the same open wound. You will be different, stronger, clearer, harder to fool. Stay with me, because this shift changes everything. What feels like heartbreak now may become the very reason you finally see your worth. And what they thought was distance may turn into the biggest mistake they ever made. Picture this. Two people are standing on the same train platform. One is ready, bag packed, ticket in hand, heart open, fully willing to take the whole ride. No half steps, no games, no confusion. The other person looks at the train, then looks away. They act casual. They say there is time. They say relax. They say maybe later, maybe the next one, maybe after they think things through. Then they drift. They scroll. They flirt. They test other options, like life is an endless menu and your love is just one more thing they can come back to whenever they feel like it. But the doors begin to close. In the past, maybe you would have begged. Maybe you would have held the doors open. Maybe you would have delayed your own journey just to make space for someone who was never sure they wanted to come. But this time, something is different. This time, you step onto the train without a speech, without drama, without one last emotional performance. You just decide, quietly and completely, that you are no longer waiting for someone who treats your heart like a spare seat. That is the moment everything starts changing, even if nobody sees it yet. The world teaches a dangerous lie. It says if you care enough, you must chase. You must explain harder. You must prove your intentions, repeat your feelings, fight for the connection until your spirit is exhausted. People call that love. They say if you stop reaching, you did not care enough. But that story leaves out the part where constant chasing slowly breaks you from the inside. Because when you are always fighting to be chosen, the one you keep abandoning is yourself. They did not leave because you had no value. They stepped away because they thought they could leave and still keep you emotionally available. They believed your love would stay on standby. They trusted their comfort more than they respected your worth. And the truth stings, but it frees you too. You can love someone deeply and still walk away when they confuse your love with weakness. That is not cold. That is not cruel. That is clarity. You were never meant to be the backup plan in anyone's life. You were never meant to sit in the waiting room of somebody else's indecision. And if they return one day, the terms will be different. You will not be there to convince anyone to choose you. They either come correct or they keep walking. A lot of people do not leave because they are truly done. They leave because they are sure you will still be there if everything else fails. That is what hurts so much. It is not only loss, it is the insult hidden inside the loss. It is realizing they saw your loyalty as something permanent, something always available, something they did not need to honor in real time because they assumed they could return whenever they wanted. Think of yourself like a warm house with the lights on, steady, safe, familiar, the door open, the kettle warm, their favorite comfort always there. They came and went freely, with your heart in their hands and your presence wrapped around them like shelter. Then one day they step outside and say they need space, or they are not ready, or they are confused, or that tired old line that sounds soft but lands hard. In their mind, it is not goodbye. It is just a pause. They think the house will still be standing whenever they feel cold again. That is where the disrespect hides, not always in harsh words, but in the quiet assumption that your love will remain available no matter how casually they leave it behind. Then fear enters the room. It whispers the questions that make people stay too long. What if they never come back? What if I was too much? What if I should have been easier, calmer, less serious, more fun, more forgiving? What if I was the problem? Fear is clever. It tells you being almost chosen is better than not being chosen at all. So you start editing yourself. You rehearse new versions of your personality like outfits in a mirror, hoping one of them will finally be acceptable enough to keep. Maybe if I say less, maybe if I ask for less, maybe if I stop showing pain, maybe if I become easier to love. But listen carefully. They did not step away because you were unworthy. They stepped away because familiarity made them careless. Your patience made them lazy. Your consistency made them think they had endless time. When someone believes you will always be there, they do not feel urgency. They feel entitlement, and entitlement kills gratitude. People stop thanking what they think can never leave. They stop protecting what they think is guaranteed. That is why your silence shakes them later, not because silence is a game, but because it removes the false safety they were leaning on. You were likely taught something very early, maybe without even noticing it, that love must be earned, that if someone stays, you passed. If someone leaves, you failed. So when they pulled away, part of you wanted to stay available just to prove your heart was real. You thought stepping back would make you the villain. You thought closing the door would make you the one who gave up. But staying in a place where you are seen and not valued is not loyalty. It is self-abandonment dressed up as devotion. There comes a point where the fear of losing them becomes smaller than the pain of losing yourself. That moment is quiet. It does not arrive with applause. It arrives when you are tired of carrying a connection that only survives because of your effort. It arrives when you finally admit that if they only return because they assumed you would wait forever, then they never came to stay in the first place. And that truth hurts. It burns off the fantasy, but it also sets you free. Because once you see their exit clearly, you stop calling it fate and start calling it what it was: immaturity, avoidance, and a lack of readiness for the depth you offered. Real power starts the moment you stop speaking into places that only answer when it benefits them. Not every battle needs a speech. Not every pain needs one more message. Some of the strongest moves you will ever make are silent. And no, silence is not manipulation when it comes from self-respect. It is not punishment when it comes from peace. The pain was never just what they did. The pain was also how long you kept reacting to it. How many times did you type the message your soul was begging you not to send? How many times did you reopen a door that should have stayed closed because fear was louder than your dignity? Imagine putting coin after coin into a vending machine that has been empty for months. You press the button. Nothing comes out. You shake it. You try again. You keep feeding a machine that has stopped giving you anything back. That is what chasing feels like when someone has already checked out emotionally. Silence is the moment you step back and say enough. I am not feeding what does not feed me. Stay with me here, because this is where people either repeat the cycle or finally break it. At first, silence feels awful. Let us be honest about that. It does not feel empowering on day one. It feels like withdrawal. Your hand reaches for the phone without thinking. You open old chats. You reread words that once felt like hope and now feel like ghosts. You type a message, delete it, put the phone down, pick it up again 5 minutes later. Your nervous system got used to the highs and lows, the attention and confusion, the breadcrumbs and long waits. That pattern becomes addictive. People do not talk enough about emotional dependency, but that is exactly what this can become. Silence is the detox. Every time you feel the urge to reach out and do not, you are teaching your mind a new truth. I can feel pain without obeying it. I can miss them without chasing them. I can cry without reopening the wound. That is strength, quiet strength. The kind that does not need an audience. The kind that builds in private while nobody is clapping. And if you stay long enough in that silence, something surprising happens. The thing that first felt like loss starts feeling like protection. The chaos quiets down. The urge softens. Your breathing changes. Your sleep begins to return. Your life starts sounding like your own again. While you are learning to protect your peace, there is often another battle happening where you cannot see it. Their silence does not always mean peace. Sometimes it means conflict. Sometimes it means ego fighting truth behind closed doors. On the outside, they may look fine. Calm posts, normal routines, smiles in pictures, casual words to friends. They make it sound simple. It did not work. They needed space. It was for the best. But private thoughts are louder than public lines. When the room gets quiet, memory gets louder. They replay conversations. They remember the softness in your voice, the patience in your words, the times you tried to hold together what they kept pulling apart. They remember the look in your eyes when you asked for honesty and got distance instead. But facing that truth threatens the image they built of themselves. So they resist it. They distract themselves. They seek noise. They chase novelty. They bury themselves in attention, work, entertainment, anything that keeps them from sitting still long enough to admit what really happened. That is the unseen war. Not always open regret, not always instant guilt, but truth rising and ego trying to push it back down. Sometimes they even meet new people. Sometimes they try to replace the feeling before they have even understood what they lost. And for a short time, that distraction works. New attention feels exciting. Fresh energy feels easy. There is no history there, no mirror, no accountability. But real connection leaves marks. It leaves fingerprints on the mind, on the body, on the soul. So comparison begins. Quietly. Suddenly something feels missing. The depth is missing. The safety is missing. The feeling of being truly seen is missing. They may never say your name out loud, but your memory becomes a hidden standard inside them. Then the questions start. Did I mess this up? Were they actually good for me? What if I pushed away something real? What if nobody understands me the way they did? At first, pride answers those questions with excuses. They wanted too much. They were too emotional. The timing was wrong. But truth is patient. It does not need to shout. It keeps knocking. And your silence makes that knocking louder, because the old illusion is gone. They can no longer tell themselves they have unlimited access to you. Now another thought enters. What if I really lost them this time? That is when your absence starts doing what your words never could. It becomes real. Not theoretical, not a little dramatic pause, real. They may unlock your chat and scroll through old messages. They may type something and erase it. They may hover over your name and do nothing because pride is still fighting fear. Part of them wants relief. Part of them wants control. Part of them wants to come close again without having to face what their distance caused. But something else is happening now, something even more important. While they are circling their own confusion, you are changing. Quietly. Deeply. Not the loud kind of change people perform online. Real change. The kind that starts in your mornings. The kind that shows up when your first thought is no longer about whether they texted, but about what you need to feel okay today. A walk. Water. Rest. Music. Prayer. Space. Air. That shift may look small from the outside, but it is huge. It means your attention is returning to its rightful place. It means you are no longer renting out the biggest room in your mind to someone who kept leaving the light on and never paying the cost. At first, healing does not feel beautiful. It feels empty. There is extra space where obsession used to live. No message to wait for. No emotional roller coaster to decode. No fresh confusion to survive. It can feel like standing in a room after all the furniture has been removed, wondering what to do with the silence. But that empty room is not punishment. It is possibility. For so long, your energy was tied up in trying to understand them, calm them, reassure them, fix what they broke, carry what they refused to carry themselves. Now that noise begins to fade, and little by little your focus comes back to you. You remember parts of yourself that got buried under overthinking, old interests, old dreams, friends you neglected, hobbies you dropped, small joys that once felt normal before survival mode became your routine. Healing is rarely dramatic. It is often simple. It is eating better, sleeping more, laughing for a few honest seconds, going outside without checking your phone every minute, realizing hours passed and they were not the center of your thoughts. That moment can shock you, not because you stopped caring, but because you finally stopped abandoning yourself. And the more you return to yourself, the more your energy changes. Your voice gets steadier. Your boundaries stop sounding like apologies. Your heart softens toward you. People notice. They may not have the perfect words for it, but they can feel the difference. You seem calmer, lighter, more grounded, more whole. The person who once over-explained every hurt starts speaking with simple clarity. The person who once accepted crumbs because they were starving for connection starts recognizing that hunger is not a reason to eat poison. The person who once waited at the door begins to build a life so full of meaning that the door is no longer the center of the house. And that shift matters. Because if your paths cross again, they will not meet the same version of you. They may expect the old access, the old softness without standards, the old patience without consequences. But they will meet someone else now. Someone kind but not naive. Someone warm but not self-sacrificing. Someone open-hearted but no longer available for confusion disguised as love. That is what shakes them most. Not anger, not revenge, not performance. Your peace. Let me add something important here, because this is where many people get pulled back in. Just because they return does not mean they are ready. Missing you is not the same as respecting you. Regret is not the same as growth. A message is not the same as commitment. And nostalgia can sound a lot like love when you still have fresh wounds. So if they come back, do not only listen to their words, watch their pattern, watch their consistency. Watch whether responsibility enters the room or whether they still speak in soft excuses and blurry promises. A changed person does not only say they understand now, a changed person moves differently. They stop asking you to shrink so they can stay comfortable. They stop loving you only when it is easy. They stop treating your peace like a price they are willing to risk. This part matters, so do not skip it. Your healing is not meant to make you more available to old pain. It is meant to make you more honest about what you can no longer accept. You did not fight this hard to rebuild yourself just to hand your heart back to the same chaos wearing better words. There comes a point where peace becomes more attractive than possibility, more attractive than mixed signals, more attractive than hoping maybe this time will be different while your body already remembers the cost. And that is a powerful place to reach, because now your life is no longer controlled by whether they return, whether they regret it, whether they finally understand your worth. Those things may happen, they may not, but they are no longer the center of your story. You are. The real victory was never making them miss you. It was learning not to leave yourself behind just because someone else was unsure. It was learning that love without respect will drain you, that patience without boundaries will erase you, and that silence used wisely can save a life that words kept breaking. So if they come back one day, let them meet the truth. Let them meet the version of you that chose peace over panic, dignity over begging, and healing over habit. Let them see that you were never simply waiting to be chosen. You were becoming someone who chooses themselves too. And if this message hits deep, hold on to it. Read it again if you need to, because the biggest shift begins the moment you stop asking whether they will come back and start asking whether the old version of you should ever go back at all.